This is Mason Steele, and welcome to part 1 of my Boomsday Hearthstone set review. We're going to start off with the neutral legendary Zeliax. It's going to give us an opportunity to look at the magnetic keyword as well as talk about the card, because it's an important card for the set as a whole. It's going to enable a lot of different strategies. It's a 5-mana, 3/2 neutral legendary, magnetic, divine shield, taunt, lifesteal, and rush. Whoa, so it's got a bit of everything there. So what magnetic does, you can play it as a creature by itself, or you can buff another mech and add the power and toughness and all the keywords. The stats on this guy might just be strong enough because of the lifesteal specifically to be included in a majority of decks like the old Sylvanas and Ragnaros, and any sort of mech deck is definitely going to be playing this card. All the keywords, divine shield, lifesteal, rush, all these work together quite well, scale very well, and do enable a lot of different strategies in the set going forward. Mulch Muncher, 10 mana, 8/8, but not really. It's a rush minion, and it's a mech. That's important right now. Mech is important. It's going to cost 1 less for each friendly treant that has died this game. So there's a little bit of an archetype here with treants. We're going to get a new card coming up. We also have some treants from the classic set, Soul of the Forest, Force of Nature. There's also Living Mana, Witchwood Apple. So there are treants out there to build a deck around this card. The mech tag is very important for the card we just talked about, Zeliax, and because it's a huge 8/8, it's going to scale nicely with that Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Taunt. The Boom Ship, legendary spell. So we're getting legendary spells with this set. It's a 9 mana, summon 3 random minions from your hand, and you give them Rush. Well, one thing you can do with this is ignore the whole Rush part of the thing and just charge Devilsaurs and Growmash, maybe with the Inner Fire or Whirlwind, and try to OTK your opponent. So very cool card here, and it combos with a 1-mana card that we're going to look at the end of the video, and kind of like a Varian Wren without the RNG. Zarek's Cloning Gallery, 9 mana, another legendary spell. Summon a 1/1 copy of each minion in your deck. So very cool card here, and there are some combo applications with stuff like Radiant Elemental, Malagos, Valen, and Mind Blast. But because you're not going to be able to set up what's in your deck very well, especially by turn 9, I don't think this is a combo card. It's a value card, and generally a bad tempo card for 9 mana. Outside of stuff like Obsidian Statue, which gives you the kill plus the taunt, in general, this will be a high value card with bad tempo. Gloop Sprayer, this 8 mana druid 4/4, says Battlecry, summon a copy of each adjacent minion. So that could be very powerful. Might be the best thing to do following a turn 7 Spiteful Summoner. This thing can definitely do some fun stuff with big minions that you can get really cheap. Stuff like Sea Giant and Mulch Muncher. This could be very strong and wild after, of course, hitting the Aviana into Kun combo. All right, next up is Dr. Boom Mad Genius. So the hero card this time around is going to be for Warrior. It's a 7 mana card, of course. It's going to give you 7 armor and Battlecry. For the rest of the game, your mechs have Rush. Interesting to note, at 7 mana, all this really does is give you 7 armor. It's not going to give you any tempo, assuming you played it on turn 7. Now, if you played on turn 10, well, you could rush out a minion, I guess. This is going to give you quite a bit of options at hero power. Let's take a look at them here. And these are random. So you have Micro Squad for 2 mana, summon 3 1/1 micro bots, and then they do have Rush. So at the very least, you kind of get 3 pings. That's not bad. Definitely probably better than your regular hero power. Zap Cannon, 2 mana. They're all 2 mana. Deal 3 damage, and that's pretty good. Just like a little removal. Can go face as well. Delivery Drone, discover a mech. Well, that's pretty value, right? Just get the biggest thing in the late game. Blast Shield, this is what might be the key to the card and what might make it see play outside of mech decks, where you get 7 armor. So it's like a big burst of armor. You lose that tank up, but because of this hero ability, every once in a while you're going to sort of get that tank up back. The last hero ability is Kaboom. It's a Whirlwind. Yeah, pretty much a 2 mana Whirlwind. Now, Warrior can definitely make use of Whirlwind, but this is probably the worst one late in the game, because you can't guarantee you're gonna be able to make use of that Whirlwind, where the other ones, they're pretty good, right? There's 2 removal ones, Micro Squad and Zap Cannon. There's 2 value ones with the Discover and the big tank up. So this might see play outside of mech's deck. It's no Gul'dan, it's no Rexxar, it's no Jaina, but it might just do enough to see play in control decks. Kangor's Endless Army is the Paladin legendary spell. It's going to resurrect 3 friendly mechs, and they keep their magnetic upgrade. So it has some great combo potential with Zeliax. Resurrect cards always see play, and this has the opportunity to cheat quite a bit on the mana. So even if you're doing just resurrecting a couple 4/3s like Piloted Shredder or one of the new Pinata cards that we're going to see in a little bit, this is going to get a little bit of value at the very least. Astral Mancer, 7 mana 5/5 mage card. Summon a random minion with cost equal to your hand size. So very similar to Spiteful Summoner. Doesn't take much for this to pass the neutral test. You just have 3 cards in your hand, well, you're going to get a 3-drop. That's almost good enough already. And if you have 9 cards in your hand, well, you can get some high-rolly stuff. So I do love book decks, and this fits right into a Book of Specters deck. So I'm definitely going to try this guy out. Beryllium Nullifier is a warrior card, 7 mana 3/8. Says magnetic, can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. This thing kind of needed taunt somewhere. When you play it, it might get ignored, and then you could go ahead and cast a magnetic card on it and hope your magnetic card does have taunt, in which case they won't be able to ignore it anymore. But yeah, this card would be a lot stronger if it had taunt built in. Boommaster Flark is the Hunter Legendary. It's 7 mana 5/5 with Battlecry. Summon 4 O2 Goblin Bombs. The Goblin Bombs have a death rattle of 2 damage to your opponent. So you get a ton of raw stats for just 7 mana. This can set up cards like Infest and Cybertech Chip, which you're going to see in a little bit. This can combo in Wild with Feign Death and Emperor Tharsin, so there are some little OTK possibilities here. I do like that you get so much stats for just 7 mana. Star Eliner, 7 mana, 7/7 neutral Battlecry. If you control 3 minions with 7 health, deals 7 damage to all enemies. Well, that's a pretty big upside and a pretty big thing to ask of you. So very cool card here to try to figure out. There are some cheap minions with 7 health like Public Defender, but this probably needs to be comboed with Giants, right? Get those Giants down to close to 0 mana. See what you can do with it. It's definitely a win more card in Jade Druid when they start making those huge Jade idols. Well, play this guy and wipe the board, I guess. That's definitely a win more thing. There is an OTK with this. You can go Aviana, Coon, Bran, Kraken into Star Aligner for a lot of damage. This could be interesting in Priest because they have a couple 3 mana 7 health minions. The Soul Fiend and the Blade Master, which I guess is neutral, but really a priest card, right? So you can have those on the board, play Circle of Healing to heal them up, and then play the Star Aligner to align the stars. Eureka, 6 mana Shaman spell. Summon a copy of a random minion from your hand. So another Ancestral's Call, obvious synergy with Malagos. Another powerful spell you can copy with the new Shaman Legendary, which we're going to look at in a little bit. This is also another way to cheat in Charged Devilsaurs. Mechanical Whelp, 6 mana, 2/2 mech. Death Rattle, summon a 7/7 Mechanical Dragon, which we assume is a mech as well. This works well with the Dr. Boom hero. You get the rushing mech, so you can rush this into something, and then, well, maybe even rush the 7/7 into something too, I imagine. This might be the Star Aligner combo card because the Death Rattle can be copied fairly easily with things like Play Dead. Also, you have things like Carnivorous Cube. You cube the whelp somehow, and then you get 2 whelps, and then the 2 whelps die. Well, you get 2 7/7s ready to align the stars. Recently revealed Missile Launcher, 6 mana 4/4 magnetic. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all other characters. Pretty cool thing here. It's a neutral Dreadlord, obviously much worse. But there's some nifty things you can do with this, right? You can play this into Plague Scientist, and every turn it's going to clear the board. You can play this and then Toxic Shot it, and again, every turn it's going to clear the board. So if your opponent can't sort of deal with it without playing a minion, well, they're going to lose their minion. So it could be a little bit of a soft lock scenario. Also in Wild, you can play Snow Chugga into this magnetic the Snow Chugger, and then every turn the Snow Chugger basically freezes all the things. So very cool. Super Collider, we have an epic warrior weapon. It's 5 mana. It's a 1 attack weapon. That's not great, but it says after you attack a minion, force it to attack one of its neighbors. So it's not a cleave. You are attacking, and then it kind of randomly hits one of the sides. So this could be really good. You are sacrificing quite a bit of life to do so because you're generally going to attack something really big to kill something, which can also kill something. Now, there are going to be situations where this is really good. The problem is once your opponent sees you have it, they're going to do all they can to give you as little value as possible going forward. And then if they don't give you any value, the problem it has, it only does 1 damage. So you can't even hit them in the face. And this is going to compete with cards like Gorehowl. I think in general, even though Gorehowl is more expensive, it's just going to be more reliable. And also Gorehowl in a pinch can go to the face for 7 damage. Mira's Unstable Element. We have the legendary rogue spell. This one's a crazy one. It says draw the rest of your deck. Now that seems like something you would never really want to do. Go ahead and put yourself immediately into fatigue. However, because of preparation and because of some cards we're going to see coming up, there are a lot of reasons to actually destroy your entire deck. Giggling Inventor, 5 mana, 2/1. You're going to summon 2 Anoyo bots as well. Basically 1/2 mechs with Taunt and Divine Shield. It's a ton of possible value and tempo for 5 mana. Kind of like a neutral call to arms. The key might be with this card is you're able to hit with a 2/1, or if it dies for free, sort of. So if you can get a hit with that 2/1, it could be really strong. This could easily be the go-to 5-drop neutral for both aggressive and control decks because it slows down your opponent and it protects your big minions going forward. The battle cry on this card also very powerful and works well with cards like Brand, Bronzebeard, and Wild, and even just Shutterwalk. This card gets absolutely smashed by Mossy Horror, however, and that might be the only thing kind of holding it back from seeing quite a bit of play. Now, if there's a lot of Mossy Horrors, this thing goes away. If there's no Mossy Horrors out there, this thing, I think, is going to run amok. Omega Agent, we have a look here at the first Omega card. It says 5 mana, 4/5, battle cry. If you have 10 mana crystals, summon 2 copies of this minion. So you get 3 4/5s once you have 10 mana for just 5 mana. That's a pretty good deal. This might be the best card that never sees play because it's kind of in the wrong class, right? Warlock generally has different things going on, especially with Gul'dan at 10 mana. This being 5 mana also means it misses out on Gen decks, right? It's still an absurd amount of stats for just 5 mana late game, so it might find a home in sort of slower zoo type of decks. Reckless Experimenter, 5 mana, 4/6 Death Rattles. Death Rattle minions you play cost 3 less, but die at the end of the turn. That's not necessarily a bad thing that they die, right? So very cool combo card here, seemingly with endless possibilities, much like Carnivorous Cube. And it even works great with the Cube because you get the discount on it. This makes Voodoo Doll kind of a legit priest card as well. It's gonna serve to cycle through your deck very quickly because there are a lot of cards and cards coming up that replace themselves with the Death Rattle. War Gear, 5 mana, 5/5 mech magnetic, kind of a basic magnetic mech here. The 5 mana, 5/5, not a bad deal, honestly. And sometimes the Blessing of Kings will serve you well. Now, it is to be noted that Blessing of Kings is a lot better at 4 mana than it is at 5 mana. At 4 mana, your opponent might not have the tools to deal with a huge threat, where later in the game, past turn 5 or so, things start to get a little bit more risky when you put all your eggs into sort of one basket. Academic Espionage, 4 mana, rogue spell. Shuffle 10 cards from your opponent's class into your deck. They cost 1 mana. So rogue definitely have some wild ones going on. This can technically combo with the other crazy legendary Mira's Unstable Element, especially if you already had an Auctioneer in your hand, right? Those cards you're going to draw are going to be 1 mana. Hopefully they're going to be spells to go off even more with the Auctioneer. There's a card coming up that's going to serve as a gang up, and King's Bane just alone means you can also avoid fatigue in rogue very easily. 4 mana for a cheap do-nothing type of card isn't great, but because of preparation, this becomes very viable, and we might be getting close to a preparation nerf or a banishment into wild. Unexpected results. Summon 2 random 2-cost minions, improved by spell damage. That's a little bit confusing. It's not quite clear what's going on. You get 3 things or 3-cost minions? Well, you actually get higher cost minions when you have more spell power. And the thing to look at here is anytime you see the number, that's the thing that gets modified by the spell damage. Notably not spell power. Seems like a good opportunity to change spell power to change spell damage, spell power, but regardless. So is this any good? Well, 2 mana, 2 random 2/2s, not amazing. If you have at least 1 spell power, you get 2 3-drops. That's a little bit better. If you have 2 spell power or more, or spell damage or more, you get 2 4-drops. I think this would be more interesting and more powerful if instead of getting bigger drops, you went wider. I think because 2 drops do have decent stats, if you kept going wider and wider, it would make the card more interesting. I think a little bit more powerful, but just getting, you know, 2 3 drops or 2 4 drops, I don't think as quite as powerful as going wider with like 4 2 drops. Anoyo Module, 4 mana, 2/4 mech, Magnetic, Divine Shield, and Taunt. So a bigger Anoyo bot here. This is a very powerful card when you can use it as a Blessing of Kings, and not so much when you're just playing it on curve. So I think it is better than Kings when you have a mech to hit, because Divine Shield scales really well with a buff. Notably, this is also a slight nerf to Stonehill Defender in Paladin, because you are more likely to get this guy and less likely to get, you know, Tarim or Tyrion now. Light Nozzle Crawler, 4 mana, 2/4 mech, Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 ooze with Poisonous and Rush. This rogue card, very cool design. It becomes a very high priority kill card for your opponent on their turn. So it's going to act like a 3/5 much of the time. Now, if you can get this to die on your turn, you're going to get a lot of value. You're going to get the rushed minion into the biggest target. Or if you have Sonya Shadow Dancer, you can completely go off and keep rushing down till your opponent has nothing left. So very cool card, cool design. I do think this will see play, even though it looks kind of bad. If you can get it to work, it has some crazy applications again with exactly Sonya. Below Bitterness Floop, maybe I got that right, probably not. While in your hand, this is a 3/4 copy of the last minion you played. At first glance, this does look pretty broken because it can cheat on mana so well and combo with a card like Malygos so well. This might be the end of Malygos, and he might just be sent to Wild. I think we might be seeing that, guys. It seems very possible after seeing some of the cards in the set. This can also just be a very high-tempo play with cards like Arcane Tyrant or Happy Ghoul, right? You can play them for 0. Omega Defender, 4 mana, 2/6 Taunt. Battlecry, if you have 10 mana crystals, gain 10 attack. Another cool Omega card here. All the Omega cards are pretty cool. This is notably not a mech, and it would combo very well with the legendary Zeliax. And I think the combo with Zeliax is the reason it is not a mech, because at 10 mana, you could gain a huge amount of life, have a huge taunt left over, and kill something huge because you get the Divine Shield buff. So because it's not a mech, it doesn't quite combo that great with Zeliax. But this does combo with Void Ripper quite well. At 10 mana, you can play this, Void Ripper it, you get a 4/12 taunt, and then maybe you Divine Spirit it, Inner Fire, and try to kill your opponent. Weaponized Pinata is a 4 mana 4/3 mech with Death Rattle. Add a random legendary minion to your hand. So it's very strong in a slow meta. It's not much tempo, but a lot of value. And there are increasingly more ways to give your minions a rush. This combos pretty well with the new warrior hero, Dr. Boom. Got good rush stats, right? 4/3. Whizbang the Wonderful, 4 mana 4/5. Got the Yeti stats. This legendary says you start the game with one of Whizbang's wonderful decks. What the heck does that mean? Well, it means you're gonna get to play with one of Blizzard's pre-made decks. And that seems like a really cool thing, because it's a great budget player option, and Blizzard might be losing thousands and thousands of millions of dollars by releasing this guy, because it kind of gives you basically a free way to play all the new cards, and very cool. Landscaping, 3 mana Druid spell, summon 2/2 Treants. So we got a Treant card here. It does play nicely with Oaken Summons, and obviously it's going to see play in a Treant deck. The question is, does this make regular kind of token deck lists? Possibly. They do have a lot of powerful things to choose from, however. Electra Storm Surge, 3 mana 3/3 elemental legendary. Battlecry, your next spell this turn cast twice. So huge finisher with Bloodlust. You can get like a Reno Jackson type of heal with Healing Rain. You have a lot of combo potentials with Eureka, and you get insane value with just Earth and Might. Look at that. You get a 5 mana 7/7, and you draw 2 elementals. Definitely some fun times to be had also with the Shaman Spellstone. Omega Medic, another Omega card here. 3 mana 3/4. So the best sort of basic stats of all the Omega cards so far. Battlecry, if you have 10 mana crystals, restore 10 health to your hero. Whoa, that's really good. This card is getting hated on mostly because it's being graded on sort of the Trump scale, where people are saying it's bad because it won't find room in a deck somewhere. That might be true technically, but the bottom line is this card is good. It's really, really good, and I do think it's going to see a lot of play. Might even be meta-defining. Spider Bomb is a 3-mana 2/2 mech with magnetic. It says Death Rattle, destroy a random enemy minion. So we have the magnetic card that's probably least likely to be played as a magnetic buff. It's just a deadly shot on a 2/2 body. That's a lot of value. That's a great defensive card. This card plays really well with Play Dead and Carnivorous Cube. Stargazer Luna, 3-mana 2/4 legendary minion. Nice little engine card here. It says whenever you play the rightmost card in your hand, you're going to draw a card. So it's never going to be broken, but it's never going to be worthless either. So very cool card. I like this card a lot. Cloning Device, 2-mana priest spell. Discover a copy of a minion in your opponent's deck. So this is kind of a fixed Draconoid operative, right? The Discover is the key to this card. If it cost 1 mana, it would be maybe an auto-include. At 2 mana, maybe not auto-include, but Discover is very powerful, and paying 2 mana for a Discover might just be worth it. Crystallology is a 2-mana paladin spell. It says draw 2 1-attack minions from your deck. So not the great tempo play that was Call to Arms. This is more likely going to be used when you're trying to search out maybe legendaries like Linessa or the Bolviers, both versions of Bolvier. Maybe something like Baron Rivendare. So possibly a cool combo card. You could also just play this with a couple Stonehill Defenders. Stonehill Defender in Paladin is always strong. Cyber Tech Chip is a card I was referring to when we were looking at the Hunter Legendary. This 2-mana spell says give minions Death Rattle, and the Death Rattle is add a random mech to your hand. Is there a more fun thing to do in a mech-heavy world? Maybe not. I do like Infest, and I like this even more that it costs 2. Going from 3 to 2 is a big deal. It makes combos with Unleash the Hounds and cards like Hunting Mastiff much easier to pull off. Demonic Project, 2 mana. Each player transforms a random minion in their hand into a demon. I do like this card. This is sort of a safer Dirty Rat, but it's always a tempo loss. Now, the demon is going to be more valuable for you for a couple reasons. Number one, you're going to have a Gul'dan in your deck, of course, because you're Warlock. You always have Gul'dan. And number two, because you can run Sacrificial Pack. So whatever they play, whenever they play their demon, you get to kill it for free. I mean, for 0, you still have to pay a card, right? But you kill it for 0, and you even gain life. So that's a very naughty little combo there. I do think this card sees a lot of play because of the interaction with Sacrificial Pack. Celestial Emissary, 2 mana, 2/1 elemental. It's a mage card. Battlecry, your next spell this turn has 2 spell damage. So this interacts with the new Unexpected Results to give you a couple 4-drops. That's okay. This could be interesting with a card like Arcane Explosion. However, I think Dragon's Fury does a better job of that kind of a thing at around the same mana cost. This is a 2/1, so it does combo with Frostlich, Jaina Ping at the late game. But I think the 1 health on this minion is what holds it back to seeing play. I think if it was a 2/2, it would see a little bit more play. Dead Ringer, 2 mana, 2/1 mech, Death Rattle. Draw a Death Rattle minion from your deck. Whoa, so this is definitely an upgraded loot hoarder when considering Quest Priest. This cycles for free with the Reckless Experimenter. This also has opportunities to search out big targets like Coffin Crasher for Obsidian Statue. Dentrologist is a 2 mana, 2/3 druid card. Battlecry, if you control a treant, discover a random spell. So here we have a payoff for another payoff for being a treant deck. This doesn't play well with Oaken Summons, however, and that's what probably holds the card back from seeing a lot of constructed play. Oaken Summons, one of the better druid cards in the game right now, and this is not going to combo with that at all. In a treant deck, well, you could definitely consider playing this. This is a strong card. It doesn't curve that well unless we have a 1 mana treant, which we currently don't have. Now, if there is a 1 mana treant, this guy gets a lot better, a lot better, right? Currently, you don't really want to play this as a 2 mana, 2/3 because the Battlecry could be very powerful. Fireworks Tech, this Hunter 2 mana, 2/1 says Battlecry, give a friendly mech +1/+1. If it has a Death Rattle, go ahead and trigger it. So this goes really well with the, the magnetic Spider Bomb, right? Not as versatile as Play Dead, although it is still very cheap. It could still be a very strong tempo play, and especially good with Spider Bomb. Lab Recruiter, 2-mana rogue minion, 3/2. Battlecry, shuffle 3 copies of a friendly minion into your deck. So we get Gang Up on a body and a Push body as well. Hilariously stronger than Baleful Banker, guys. This Battlecry means it also has countless more synergies than Gang Up because of cards like Brand Bronzebeard, Shadowstep Vanish, Elven Minstrel, and who knows how many more. Recruiter into Recruiter alone gives you an infinite deck. So you can do that with King's Bane, but you can also just Recruiter into Recruiter and keep going forever. Super fun for test decks, to be sure, because you can combo them both for 10 mana. But likely this will do naughty things in Wild, like Oracle spam you, or you get the countless Arcane Giants against you. With the legendary spell and a Faldori Strider, you can almost get an endless supply of 4/4 spiders every turn. In general, this does feel like a little bit of a mistake card from Blizzard. Menacing Nimbus, 2-mana 2/2 elemental. Battlecry, add a random elemental to your hand. Very cool card here. And 2-mana 2/2 that replaces itself is not new, but the fact that it's both an elemental and it makes an elemental might mean this is an auto include in every Shaman deck, because Shamans have access to Kalamo's Primal Lord. So very strong card for elemental decks, and might even just always see play in Shaman, because you can just play 2 of these guys for value and 1 Kalamos, and all of a sudden your Kalamos is going to have a lot of ways to activate. Pogo Hopper is another controversial 2-mana rogue minion here. It's a mech. It's a 1/1. Battlecry, gain +2/+2 for each other Pogo Hopper you play this game. So the first one's terrible. Once you play the second one, it's not bad. And then from there, well, is it the next Jade Idol? I don't think so, but there is enough support to make it like a Jade Idol, right? Between Lab Recruiter, Valera Hero Power, the legendary spell Mira's Unstable Element, there is a lot of things you can do to go ahead and make this like a Jade Idol. But because King's Bane exists, I don't think you really need to be doing that, right? Making a huge King's Bane, giving it lifesteal, that's a win condition by itself. So I don't think you need to do the Pogo Hopper Jade Idol kind of thing. One thing Jade Idol also had going for it was a 1-mana spell, interacted very favorably with cards like Fandral and Auctioneer. Upgraded Framebot is a 2-mana 1/5 neutral mech. This might be the next Vicious Scalehead, kind of an unassuming 2-drop that is kind of the glue that holds a lot of decks and archetypes together. Whether it's grabbing magnetic buffs or helping zoo boards out, or maybe used in Interfire combo, a lot of things possible with this guy here. Amgam Rager got power creep, right? This used to be a 3-mana card. Now it's a 2-mana card, and it's a mech. Auto Defense Matrix is the new Paladin secret. It is, of course, 1 mana. It says when one of your minions is attacked, give it Divine Shield. I do like the design on this card quite a bit because it works favorably with Redemption. One of the annoying things with Redemption and spamming secrets is that when you get your Noble Sacrifice or Get Down activated, you sort of resurrect your 2/1 instead of something cool, maybe like a Bell Ringer, right? So I do like the interaction there. In Wild, Noble Sacrifice has favorable interaction with Avenge, so probably in Wild, Noble Sacrifice still gets played, but maybe in Standard, we have sort of an Auto Defense Matrix, Redemption, plus Bell Ringer sort of theme going on. Biology Project, one of the first cards revealed, is a 1-mana Druid spell. It says each player gains 2 mana crystals. It doesn't say empty mana crystals. You could play this on turn 1 and theoretically go ahead and Wild Growth to ramp even more. You have Nourished, and then you go right into UI. So while this is technically card disadvantage because your opponent gets the mana crystals too, because you are Druid, because you have access to Nourish and Ultimate Infestation, you're just going to come out ahead on the deal anyway. So very strong card, and unless you're in the Druid versus Druid mirror, the downside in this card isn't even a big deal because of cards like Nourish, because of cards like Ultimate Infestation. This card's very strong. I can't imagine how this doesn't see play. One thing to note, if this does see a lot of play, it makes Omega cards better across the board because more games will end up at 10 mana. Speaking of Omega cards, we have Omega Assembly, the warrior version. It's a 1-mana spell. It says discover a mech. If you have 10 mana crystals, well, you get to keep all 3 of the cards from the discover. So that's very good, actually. And in fact, I think this is an auto include in Warrior. 1-mana discover spells have always been good enough to see play. And the upside on this is that, well, you draw 3 cards for 1. That's absolutely insane because you give them no tempo to draw. Usually when you draw, you give a little bit of tempo. This, for just 1 mana, you get all 3. Crazy. The interaction with this card that's very cool is Skulking Geist, because there's sort of a cat and mouse game here. If you're getting close to 10 mana, well, you're going to want to save it for 10 mana to draw 3. But then your opponent could at any point play Skulking Geist past turn 6, and you lose your assembly. So what do? Well, you have to sort of predict if your opponent is playing a deck that has Skulking Geist, and maybe you go ahead and fire it off. Or you can be greedy and try to wait till 10 to get that Ancestor Recall. Eternium Rover, 1 mana, 1/3 mech. So 1 mana, 1/3 neutral do-nothing cards are legitimately playable and quite good in Constructed. And this being a mech, this having a very relevant ability, whenever this minion takes damage, you gain 2 armor. So takes magnetic buffs well. It's good just on its own. It's good anti-aggro card. Yeah, this card is definitely going to see play and might be auto-include because it's already a good statted minion and it has a relevant ability on it. Faithful Lumen is the last card I got for you today. It's a 1 mana, 1/1 mech. Battlecry, give a friendly mech +1/+1. So pretty cute. A little bit of a flavor fail that it's not a 0 mana, 1/1 mech, I think, to carry on the tradition of those. It's got a tough road to make it into a main deck. I don't think it does, but there's always Zoo Warlock to consider, right? So that's it for part 1 of my Boomsday set review. If you guys agree or disagree with any of the ratings today, well, let me know in the comments below. I will not take offense. I will be doing one of these videos every Friday until the set comes out. See you guys later.